Ebola. What is it? What are we doing about it? And why is it important? Ebola is a disease that has been spread through West Africa and has killed over 1,500 people. There's over 3,500 cases of Ebola, and it is estimated that over 20,000 people will have gotten the Ebola disease by the time we figure out a way to stop it. The symptoms of Ebola are nausea, vomiting, coughing, chest pain, diarrhea, stomach pain, and bleeding through the eyes, ears, and nose. Ebola is contracted by human-to-human contact and bodily fluids. But it is said that if the disease mutates, there's a possibility of it becoming airborne. That means that if the person sitting next to you, if they have Ebola and they are coughing, sneezing, or either breathing on you, you have the possibility of getting Ebola. So far, 81 healthcare workers have died because of the Ebola disease, and 170 have been infected. Out of this, 10 have been American. Nurses went on strike for a higher pay due to hazardous conditions and access to more protective gear. What protective gear, you ask? Doctors use a 3-layered disposable suit, which includes hood, boots, apron, bibs, gloves, and goggles. In the heat, doctors last 3 to 4 hours with these suits on, but they cannot bear any longer than that. After this, there is a half-hour procedure of stripping off every layer one by one and bleaching it. This week, the human experimental trial begins at the National Institute of Health. This will be the first human testing. It will be given to 3 volunteers ages 18 to 50 by injection in 2 doses. 5 out of the 7 chimps that this has been tested on are still alive. And the GlaxoSmithKline company will make 10,000 vaccines and give them to high-risk countries for emergency vaccinations for a precautionary issue. The Canadian government shipped 800 to 1,000 vaccines to Liberia, but it is not known if we have used them. The 3rd vaccine found primates to be immune to the Ebola virus, given with Depovax, a vaccine used for cancer therapy. And the International Health Office states that the Ebola epidemic is accelerating and the window for getting it under control is closing. Joan Liu, the president of Doctors Without Borders, is saying that we are in a losing battle. Ebola is one of the most important topics to talk about right now because people see in the news doctors with Ebola cured. Yes, the doctors with Ebola that came back to the United States are cured, but what about the over 3,500 people right now who have Ebola, or the 20,000 people who might get Ebola before we can get the vaccine to West Africa? Doctors can only stay in their suits for 3 to 4 hours. Think of the amount of patients that they can see within those 3 to 4 hours, but think of the patients that they can't see while they have to cool off and take the suits off. And this should be a top priority worldwide before it spreads to even more parts of the world. I mean, 10 Americans have already gotten it, 3 coming back to the United States. Yes, they are cured, but Ebola is spreading, and if, God forbid, it mutates and becomes airborne, we have a very serious issue. This can be as serious as the bubonic plague. That's why Ebola is a very serious issue to talk about and why it is one of the most important issues in the world today.